Good evening. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. It is June 2nd, 2025, late in the evening here after 9. I just wanted to share some thoughts and perspectives from a couple of people regarding the attack by the Ukrainian forces, the drone attacks. I think there were about 5 bases, Russian bases. I believe 3 were hit. The other 2, the Russian defense blocked. However, they started with a number that was a little bit high. They were gleeful and, just excited about having, I think it was 18 months they worked on this particular operation. And I think the last numbers I heard are somewhere between 5 and 10. Somewhere between 5 and 10 crafts were hit and destroyed. But I'm going to let you listen to Alistair Crook here from Judge Napolitano's show this morning, early in the morning, and his thoughts on what was going on with this and the tactic that was used. And I'm going to share that now. And then we're going to go on to another video after that.
Yes, it was an extraordinary event. They had these trucks fitted with retractable roofs, and the drones had been manufactured and put within them, and that at a certain point they were placed very close. They were driven across by unsuspecting Russian drivers who didn't realize what they were doing in many cases, driven across, placed near to airports, and then the roof automatically retracted. They were using the Russian telecom system in order to have, if you like, a simultaneous retraction of the roof in 5 and next to 5 air bases in Russia. And then the drones flew and attacked or attempted to attack, because only 2 of them actually functioned. There seems to have been a malfunction in the retractable roof in several occasions. In other occasions, the Russian defense systems took down the drones before they did damage. But in 3 areas, now there's no absolute confirmation about how much damage there has been done, but it looks like that there were overall about 5 strategic Tu-95 bombers who were damaged, maybe 2 possibly destroyed, 3 damaged heavily but maybe recovered, a transport plane, and 1 other plane, which the Ukrainians have said was an AWAC plane, an A-50, but there's absolutely no evidence at all. So we're talking about the loss of about 5, maybe more in these areas, and it was right across Russia, the bases, as that documentary suggested, far away. But these had all been pre-positioned, and these were locally fired killer drones fired out of the back of a truck. And 5... probably 5. Now, Russia altogether doesn't produce these Tu-95s anymore, but they still estimate to have 45 to 55 of these in service. So it's not going to change the course of this history, not going to stop. In that big bombing raid, that Trump miscast in saying it they were just attacking for no reason, but which followed a similar failed drone attack on Moscow, which did actually close down the 4 Russian airports at the time. But it's not going to change it. It's not a threat to Russia's strategic nuclear capabilities.
Is it?
It's strategic, but there is one thing that is very important to understand, because I've seen a lot of comments saying, but the Russians had all their planes out in the open and they were lined up on the tarmac, and silly Russians. Actually, this is the requirement of the START and SALT nuclear treaties, that the strategic bombers have to be observable by visual and electronic means and out in the open. And the same applies, by the way, to American strategic bombers. They're also put out in the opening. But what this is we're entering a new era of war, because this is somewhat like what we saw with the attack on Hezbollah, using pagers that sow damage, and after which you can't really trust. Are you sure your telephone is safe any longer? And what we are seeing here is several types of what the Ukrainians called asymmetric warfare, but others would call terrorist warfare. There was just recently an assassination of a Russian general. A Russian who was unaware of it came up to him, and he'd been given a package for the general, and it was a bomb, and blew them both up and killed the general. Then we had the bridges which were destroyed at the edge of Bryansk region of Russia, and deliberately blown up so that they fell onto civilian trains, 2 trains with many injured and some deaths, that was traveling to Moscow. And now we've had this. But this is really important because, in a sense, this is the strategic nuclear. We're getting to the heart of this thing. Ukraine, supported by its allies in the West, has now bombed directly a part of the strategic deterrence which has got to be visible and out in the open under the treaties. So it's an attack on the main treaties, which are not with Ukraine, but were negotiated by Russia with the United States. And of course, the big question is that in the last few days, when Mr. Trump started talking about, look, if Russia doesn't do what I'm telling them, something really, really bad is going to happen to them. And then shortly after that, this happened. And I think the Russians are furious at this. They're furious in many ways. But think what that means more widely for all of us. Are we going to have to search every container coming into our countries in case it has a retractable roof, and drones, easy to manufacture? The parts are available. You can buy them off the shelf. You put them in, and then by remote control, someone fires it at the nuclear strategic deterrent of Russia or the United States or in the other countries. This is a new form of strategic war, which is highly dangerous for the future.
So, Alistair makes a very good point. This different type of warfare, these tactics now, there are the ones he mentioned, like the bomb that went off when this Russian man gave this box to the general and blew them up. That is a terrorist act. It's not a regular war, a traditional war, a conventional or traditional war tactic that I'm aware of, and I think that's what he was trying to point out. He also said the thing that happened with the tracks, the bridge where the train was, they set that up on purpose to collapse onto that train. That is a terrorist act. It's really, really not a good direction this is going in. Also, it reminded me of what Father Elpidios had said, the clairvoyant elder from Greece, had said about World War III, and that there were going to be new weapons never been seen before. And, well, we have already seen new weapons come forth, like the Reshnik, and something like the way these drones are being used. It's different. And it is kind of dangerous. It is dangerous and scary, because the things that are happening now, even in our state here, the things that have been happening with what was it, Palm Springs or something in California a couple of weeks ago. There was a bombing there, a terrorist attack there. In any case, yes, the Russians were probably furious, and I've heard a lot of people say, especially Russians, why don't we just get this war over with? And, it's hard for me as a Christian to say anything like, okay, we just got to, I'm not for killing people, but what I'm saying is the Zelensky government is illegitimate, and it needs to go. And I don't know how to say that nicely, but it does. It needs to go so that I was listening today. Also, it can't be there, because it's going to be a constant. It's been a mess. You cannot have peace with this. It's never going to change. I also recall people talking about that's you can't really have Ukraine being neutral anymore. It doesn't seem to be. It seems past that point now. In any case, they targeted nuclear assets, as Alex Christoforou said on his title of his video earlier today. So this is not good. We're stepping closer to World War III. But I'm going to play another thing here in a minute for Colonel Wilkerson. There's a few parts here I want to play for you on how he sees what's happening. And so I'm going to start it right here.
I want to start with what has happened in Russia, something of major importance when it comes to the nature of attack and the targets that they have been. Some of them were civilian infrastructures, the other one military infrastructure and nuclear bombers. How did you find it? How much of concern do you bear when it comes to these sort of attacks on the part of Ukrainians?
Deep and profound concern. Imagine, if you will, just to sort of set up an analogy, Mexico or Canada or any third party, particularly one that was proximate to our borders, launching missiles that hit Whiteman Air Force Base and destroyed B-2 bombers, or hit Barstow in Louisiana or Minot and destroyed B-52 bombers, or came in on Groton, Connecticut, where a ballistic missile submarine was being serviced and hit it. These are things that during the Cold War, we swore to each other, Moscow and Washington, that we would never do. These are things that are so destabilizing that Putin would be in his every right with regard to all the lessons we have learned, and there are many, to attack, and to attack with nuclear weapons. And to say to the rest of the world, they provoked me, they surely did, and I'm not losing my devices for responding should I be really provoked by a first strike. And that's what you're talking about. Never hit the assets that your nuclear-armed enemy needs to assess whether or not you're attacking them. That's a no-no, always been a no-no. No one disputed that in Moscow or Washington, or for that matter, in the other capitals in the world. Now we've broken that bugaboo. Now we've said, okay, it's okay to do that. And here's what we did, Nima. You know this. You're a smart man. We did this under Trump's tutelage, brain dead, though I'm assuming more and more he is, meaning his cabinet and others around him. We did this because we wanted to, quote, establish negotiating leverage for the next meeting, unquote. Establish negotiating leverage by allowing your proximate enemy to destroy serious nuclear assets of your enemy. This is unbelievable. It's preposterous. I can't believe the Trump administration has shown repeatedly since inauguration, confirming much of what it showed in the 2016 forward years, that it is, I won't say brain dead, that it is completely captured by that element of fascist, neoconservative, autocratic advisors who are moneyed to the neck within its realm. That's what's running it. It isn't Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't even know, watch his face, he didn't even know that Putin's assassination was attempted and that probably we had something to do with the intelligence that fed that. Now, I will tell you this right now. I've had long conversations with people who know. We were integral. We, the United States of America's intelligence community writ large, were absolutely necessary for these strikes. My question to Donald Trump is, did you know that? And if you didn't, why is Tulsi Gabbard still in her job?
Ooh-wee. Yeah. You can tell that Colonel Wilkerson is very concerned about what has been happening, and we all should be. I almost feel like we're going back to the same spot we were in October, well, in November 2024, when, you know, you had that admiral under Biden who was talking about, oh yeah, we're all prepared for a nuclear war. You know, we don't have any problem with this. So I'm going to play one other portion for you that Colonel Wilkerson has said, and let me put it to where that is. Okay.
Are you losing your hope totally in Ukraine, in the case of Ukraine?
These strikes make me think that I've lived too long. These strikes make me think that all that I learned, all that I was taught, all the things that we belabored endlessly during the Cold War and afterwards about nuclear weapons have just been set aside, completely set aside. And I believe there are people in this country, in the empire, who think that they can win a nuclear war and who are not cowed in the least by the fact that Putin has a stockpile that outnumbers our own, has weapon systems that can carry that stockpile that are better than our own. They want this confrontation to happen, come hell or high water. And they're convinced that they're going to win by making him back down. But I've got news for them. The most imponderable thing, going back to Clausewitz again, about war, especially once it's being waged and blood has been shed and treasure spent, is that most often what happens is what you didn't expect. But when you go back, if you are alive to go back and examine it, you can see with almost crystal clear clarity how you got there. You can take it step by step and find out how you got there. It's almost, it's just not hidden at all. It's there for you to see. Historians, of course, pick all this out after the conflict ends. Unfortunately, after a nuclear conflict ends, there aren't going to be any historians to puzzle over. And that's what just floors me about these people. We've forgotten so much, Neiman. People were steeped with this knowledge during my lifetime, during the Cold War. I mean, I lived through the entire Cold War. We were steeped with this knowledge. There were things we wouldn't do. There were things that were absolutely verboten. You just didn't do them. When we got to the Berlin crisis, we helped the Germans build the wall in order to stop that crisis. When it got to Cuba, President Kennedy bent over backwards through 3 or 4 different conduits to not have a war. And he had generals like Curtis LeMay who wanted to assassinate him because they thought he needed a war. And they wanted a war. Well, we got through that. We got through it because why? We had good leadership at the top. Now we are damaged goods through and through. I'm scared. I'm frightened. I'm frightened for my grandchildren. I'm frightened for my children. I'm frightened for my country because we have zero leadership.
Well said. Well said, Colonel Wilkerson. So, yes, they had the talks today in Istanbul, about an hour. Basically, they exchanged their memorandums, and that was about it. I didn't think they would have much to talk about after this. Did you? I will say a lot of people are wondering what Putin will do next. Is it going to be the continued methodical, slow grinding down of the Ukrainian troops? Or will something change? You know, Larry Johnson said today it's possible that Putin could change the special military operation, change it to declaring war on Ukraine. And he didn't say war on NATO, just Ukraine, even though you have NATO basically saying they're declaring war on Russia to a certain extent, but not saying it. It sounds like they're implying it, but they're not saying it outright. And as you know, Orthodox prophecies talk about this world war between Europe and Russia. And, you know, it's been going on for a while. Yes, it's been mostly proxy, but the way the Europeans are talking, which is insane, you can see all of this is taking place. It's unfolding in front of us. I just wanted to share a few things on that since it's a big story, and I had a chance to come on and share my thoughts on that. But yeah, Colonel McGregor said the same thing. When a war starts, you may think you have these plans and these strategies to do certain things, but a lot of times, basically, you get unexpected things that happen and things change direction quickly. So, this is the one I wanted to share with you right now. Just an update on that and what's going on. And we'll see what happens, what response Russia has with this. You know, I know there's a Russian man that was interviewed by a certain podcaster today, and he said that was more like a PR stunt, what the Ukrainian NATO did. But we will see. And share your thoughts. What do you think about what's going on? Where are we headed? Thanks so much for watching. Please follow my channel, like my videos if you like them. So, you know, follow my channel on my Rumble channel. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube, same name. And hit the you know, just keep an eye out for my stuff. The thing is, you know, I kind of just come on whenever I can and when I feel like I have something to share. Unfortunately, I don't have a set schedule, but you know, I have job, I have other things I have to do, so I come on when I can. But I thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate you watching and sharing my videos. Please do that if you haven't. Share my videos and share my channel. I really appreciate it. And hope you're having a great evening. I think I have one more video to share later. So thanks so much. And